Good afternoon. My name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 26 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, Success Through E-Commerce, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. Please mark your calendars for the next webinar in our Digital Bootcamp series, Grow Your Business with Digital Marketing, on December 12th at 1 p.m. We are recording today's presentation and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted and the chat feature is turned off. But if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box and we will address them at the end of the session. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session, Cameron Nelson, Technology Advisor for the Virginia SBDC. Cameron has over 19 years of experience in technology and is a senior tech consultant in Silicon Valley, helping Fortune 500 companies improve their digital marketing and e-commerce. At the same time, he also founded several tech companies, including a software-as-a-service website for tree preservation and a blockchain platform for nonprofits. Cameron is accomplished in language, culture, has an MBA and MA. He believes new technology products have the ability to help shape our world for the better. Please join me in welcoming Cameron Nelson.
Thanks for that introduction, and hello everybody. Welcome to Success Through E-Commerce. I think everybody here either has or plans to have an e-commerce based business, and you're looking for some strategies on how to make that business successful. Perhaps you've already been running an e-commerce business for some time and you're struggling to generate enough profit, or perhaps you're starting this new venture and you're looking to start with the best tactics and strategy right out of the gate. So I'm going to be covering the various strategies to build and maintain an e-commerce business. We're going to look at some different scenarios and different platforms to help you choose what's the best ways for your business to be successful selling online. And we'll have time for questions at the end of this presentation, so I encourage you all to have a question or two in mind to ask it, and we'll get through as many of those questions as we can. So with that, let's jump right into it. We have three goals for the presentation today. The first goal is to learn what website platform and e-commerce platforms work best for you. Secondly, I'm going to show you how to set up your e-commerce store and the different things you need to know to get your items ready to list for sale and how best to list them. And third, we're going to talk about the strategy of once you've launched your store, how do you refine your store and how do you maximize your profits to make sure this is a real sustainable business that you can grow and build up upon year after year. So the first thing I want to talk about is your website. Any e-commerce business nowadays is probably going to have a website, which is something like yourbusiness.com. And this website is going to be your business's home on the internet. Now, you might sell your products on the website, or you might sell them on a third-party e-commerce site like Amazon, Shopify, Etsy, eBay. But the website is an integral part of your strategy. It helps your brand have a good perception, helps build up your reputation. So here are the four different levels of a website that you could have. If you already have a website, you can see which level you fit into. And if you're building a website for a new business, you can learn which level you need to be at to really meet your business objectives online. The first level of website is a level 1 website. That's a very basic website. It doesn't even have any e-commerce capabilities, so it's not really suitable for most people here if you're trying to launch an e-commerce business. It can be suitable for business that's more of a service-based business. So think of a nail salon or a haircutting parlor, places like this that aren't selling products, but mainly have a website to advertise their location and their services. A level 2 website is a website that's going to have links to actual products for sale, but they're going to link to an external website like Amazon, Shopify, or Etsy. So the website can talk about your business, but when somebody goes to buy the product, they will go to one of those third-party sites. This is a cheaper and quicker website to build because you're not having to host the shopping cart and the e-commerce payments yourself on your own website. You are outsourcing those to a third-party website. However, they all do charge a fee for that service. So a level 2 website is not going to give you as much profit as a level 3. So a level 3 website, I consider a robust level website for e-commerce, and it integrates the shopping capabilities directly onto your website. This is nice because it helps you maintain a really good brand identity. There's no changing of websites when somebody goes to buy the products. It's all done on your website. So it looks more professional, and you're also able to charge slightly higher premiums for the products because, again, the perception is there that it's a higher quality product, so you can get higher profit margins generally. You can also do things like social media links to those pages, or integrating a feed from your Facebook or LinkedIn page onto this website. These are all possibilities with a level 3 website. And a level 4 website, an advanced level, this is really necessary only when a business has kind of complicated products to sell. This could mean something that comes in multiple sizes, colors, configurations, and something like shoes or clothing, for example. So you need some more advanced capabilities to help filter and buy the correct type of product on that website. Also, if you want to sell and have video reviews or testimonials on a website, if you want to have subscription packages that you sell, or perhaps a referral system in place, you're going to need a level 4 advanced website for those functions. So if you already have a website and you're looking to upgrade, these are some of the upgrade considerations to move from one level to the next. Also, if you don't have a website at all, it'll show you what the steps are just for a level 1 basic website. So you can get a basic website for free from several different places like Wix.com and Squarespace.com and Weebly.com. Those are 3 good sources. And keep in mind, if you're going to create product listings on an e-commerce site like Shopify, Etsy, or Amazon, they're going to give you a starting page that you can customize to some extent. And this can suffice for a very basic website. Some businesses get by with this. However, it decreases your brand reputation and the perception of quality if you just have a level 1 website. So moving up to a level 2 website is a good idea if you're getting serious about your online e-commerce business. Like I said, these level websites offer more customization, but you're still linking to a third-party site like Shopify, Etsy, or Amazon to complete the checkout process. A level 3 robust website is usually an investment of around $2,000 to $9,000. And building this kind of website will allow you to target your market much better. You can really customize your landing pages. You can do what's called A/B testing, which is if you're doing a marketing campaign, you can have a certain ad go to one version of your homepage and another ad go to a second version, version A and version B. And by testing which version gets the highest amount of sales, you can determine which layout people like the most, or which colors, or which product images. This is called A/B testing, and it's a more advanced strategy that some bigger businesses use, but it's available for any size business to benefit from this type of strategy as well. For these types of features, you'll need a level 3 website at least. And a level 4 website is, again, the most useful when you have something complex to sell. Costs here can range from $8,000 to $45,000 or more, depending on what features you need. And it can enable things like geolocation of your users, subscription models, user login pages and dashboards, and more advanced features. So hopefully now you have some idea of what level website you might be currently at if you have a website, and where you need to be in order to help your e-commerce business thrive. Now I want to talk a little bit more about the costs of creating and operating one of these levels of website. For any of the 4 levels of website, you're going to pay a $20 a year host domain registration fee for your domain name. So again, your domain name is something like yourbusiness.com, and the shorter the name, the better, the more simple words, the better. And so there's a lot of strategy that can go into choosing the right domain name. If you have questions about that, feel free to ask me at the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. But that's going to be $20 a year for just about any domain name ending in .com. You're also going to pay a hosting fee, and this is the fee you pay to the computer somewhere in the world that's actually hosting your physical website files and serving those up to visitors. And you're paying for the storage on that computer and also the bandwidth that is being used when people visit the website. For a basic level website, you can expect to spend around $50 a year for website hosting, and that can go all the way up to $250 a year for an advanced level website hosting, because those type of websites have many more files, more videos, images, so it takes more bandwidth to upload that when somebody visits it. Another expense you can expect to spend for a business website is your email. Now, the very cheapest email out there that's going to be at your domain name is going to be about $1 a month or $12 a year. This is a very basic, no frills type email that gets the job done, but it's not much more. And I think this is sufficient if you have a level 1 or 2 website, because you're probably keeping your costs really low at this point. However, if you're already going to invest in a level 3 or 4 website, I recommend you would strongly consider using a Google powered email address. And what this means is that it would still be at your domain name.com, but it'll have that Gmail interface that most of us use. It'll have all the Google Docs, like Word, Google Docs, Google Sheets, the PowerPoints, Calendar, Google Meet. All of those apps are going to be included at your business domain. So it's just a good way to increase the efficiency of running your business to have access to all of those. And I think it's well worth that investment of around $75 a year per email address. The next category you can consider spending money on with your online business are your paid ads. I think if you have a basic level website, it's generally not a good idea to invest in ads, because your website itself probably is just bare bones. So if you're going to invest in ads, I'd consider a minimum level website is where you want to start. And as far as a budget, about $100 per month or $1,200 a year is a minimum budget to run an ad on Facebook or on Google, the 2 biggest ad platforms. If you're going to go with a level 3 website, you can expect to spend around $3,000 a year to advertise and market that website successfully with paid ads. And some businesses have a very large budget, up to $10,000 a year or more. And that can be useful if you're trying to promote an advanced level website and you have that kind of marketing budget. Now, with most of these websites, with basic and minimum, you can probably develop this and build this yourself as a regular business owner. You don't need to be a developer and have special experience. However, if you don't have the time or the inclination to learn about that, you can hire a developer, either a freelancer or a very small firm. For a basic level website, you can expect to spend between $300 and $1,000. For a minimum level website, $750 to $3,000. For a robust level, $2,000 to $9,000. And for an advanced level, starting around $8,000, but it can go to $45,000 or more depending on the features that you need. And the last expense to be aware of here is what's called SSL, which stands for Secure Socket Layer. This just is an encryption that lays between your website and the credit card processing networks like Visa, MasterCard, and Discover, and it encrypts credit card data entered on your website. So if you have a level 1 or 2 website, you're actually not taking credit card payments yet on the website, so you don't need to worry about this. But if you have a 3 or 4 level website, it means you probably are taking credit cards. And so you'll need to have SSL. It's generally around $100 a year. So these are the main startup and operating expenses you can expect to spend when maintaining your business website. So now that we've talked in depth about your website and why you need it and how much it costs, we're now going to switch to talking about the top e-commerce platforms in the world. These are the top e-commerce platforms for small businesses to use. Going to talk through each one of these specifically and in some detail. And so I hope that you'll get a sense for which platform or platforms might work best for your business. And then you'll be able to decide if you want to list your products for sale on one of them. And you're able, of course, to list your products on multiple platforms like this. You're not limited to just one. And a lot of businesses will list their products on their website as well as on Shopify or as well as on Amazon. So you can mix and match and decide where your market is, where people are looking for your products, so where the best place is to sell them on. So now we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons of each of these and help you decide. Shopify costs between $9 and $79 per month and has a transaction fee on every sale from 0 to 2%, and you get the 0% if you use their payment gateway. And we'll talk more about payment gateways in a moment and how they come into play. Shopify is very, very easy to set up. You can upload your product pictures, prices, descriptions, and pretty much anybody can create a Shopify e-commerce page. But the downside here is possibly that it doesn't allow you to customize the checkout process very much. So for some businesses, this might not be an issue. But if you have something like shoes, clothing, or something that needs various styles and configuration options before somebody can buy it, Shopify doesn't give a great interface for that, and so it might not work for your products. The next one is Etsy, which charges a 6.5% transaction fee and a 20-cent listing fee per item, an additional 3% payment processing fee. So very different payment structure than Shopify. It's really focused, the platform is focused on handmade and vintage items, things like arts and crafts supplies. So if you're selling something in one of these categories, Etsy can be a logical place to list your products. It's also very, very easy to set up and post your products on, like Shopify. The third one here is Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace is relatively new. It's about 3 years old now. It's the newest one on this list. They charge a flat 5% sales fee or a 40-cent listing item for products of $8 or less. And it's also geared towards small businesses and merchants like the other platforms. Now, one big advantage of Facebook is that it has over 2.5 billion organic users worldwide. This gives you a lot of organic traffic or people just searching for a product or service and being able to find it on your Facebook store page. So after Google, Facebook is the world's second largest search engine. So it has a lot of reach. And if you're already on Facebook with your business and listing your products for sale on Facebook, shops can be a logical step. However, if you're not comfortable using Facebook because of their data privacy usage and how they basically share your information and sell that, then you're probably going to want to steer clear of Facebook shops because they do also take your information and sell it to other parties, and you don't really have control over that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The fourth one is Amazon, which is the world's largest e-commerce platform. They charge $1 per item or $40 per month, plus a fulfillment fee that can range between $2 and $6 per item. One unique thing about Amazon is that they warehouse your items for you and ship them for you, and also can handle your returns. If you want them to do things like handle returns, then they're going to charge a higher fulfillment fee. But for a lot of small businesses, this can be a great time saver, not having to ship your own products and handle returns. So they opt to let Amazon do all that for them. I also think Amazon has a big benefit of being the best if you're selling something that's kind of a complex item, comes in multiple sizes or colors, and like clothing or shoes, for example. They have a good selection process of drop-down menus to help people find exactly what they're looking for. So if you're selling anything that is more complex in nature, I think Amazon is a good platform to look into. Lastly is Amazon Handmade. Amazon Handmade came out a few years ago, and it's Amazon's answer to Etsy, where they really are focused on selling handmade and arts and crafts type items. And they don't have a monthly fee for that, but they do have a 15% fee on all sales. So arguably, it's the most expensive platform here. And you also need to qualify before you can list your products there by going through an application process and submitting an application. I've worked with merchants who have done this, and this application can take over a month and involve multiple rounds of interviews and phone calls. It's very intense, and they don't accept everybody. But if you want to sell on Amazon and you have something that's in the handcraft category, then Amazon Handmade can be a really good choice for you to use. Next, we're going to look at these 5 platforms in a little bit more detail, and I want you to try to get a sense of which platform or platforms you think will be the best to sell your products on. The first one here is Shopify. So Shopify says that they're the global e-commerce platform and that you can build your business with Shopify to sell online. They also say you can sell offline because they've integrated physical point of sale systems like credit card swipers, and they'll send those to you for a small fee. And that's nice because if you have presence in a physical store or farmer's market, something like that, but you also run an e-commerce website, Shopify will manage your inventory and your credit card processing from both physical and online all in the same place. So it's pretty convenient. It's a nice feature for some people. Shopify also offers a free 3-day trial period where you can start selling and test it out. So it's a pretty simple platform to get started with, and it has a lot of advantages. I think Shopify is a good all-round solution. It doesn't really excel in any one area or focus on any one type of product, but it's good just for a lot of general businesses and general products. Now, Shopify has an interesting take on technology. One thing that's come out in the last year or two is called NFTs, which stands for non-fungible tokens. This is an element of the blockchain technology, something similar to Bitcoin, but not quite Bitcoin. And this can be useful if you're looking to sell a digital product. So let's say you take photographs, you make videos that are online, you have any kind of digital artwork. You can create a token of that and sell that on Shopify. And so it's an interesting concept if you want to monetize your digital products. And I won't talk too much more about it now because it doesn't apply to everyone. But if you have more questions, let me know in the comments and I'll try to answer those. Also, the link below here goes to their website where you can learn a lot more about this process. It's very easy to create the NFT of your digital product and then sell it on Shopify. And Shopify is the only platform of the ones I'm mentioning, only major e-commerce platform that lets you create the NFTs simply. So if you're interested in that, Shopify is the platform I'd recommend you check out. The next platform we're going to talk about is Etsy, which is focused on handcraft, handmade, unique items. You can see some of the categories that they're looking to sell here on their website are things like jewelry and accessories, clothing and shoes, home, living, decor, weddings and parties, toys and entertainment, arts and collectibles, craft supplies. So if you're selling things in these categories, Etsy is a great marketplace because your shoppers are coming here looking for these types of goods. So it can be a logical place to come and list yours for sale. Now, Facebook Shops is Facebook's answer to all of these e-commerce giants, and it's trying to compete with them. And don't confuse this with Facebook Marketplace, which is a very different thing. Facebook Marketplace is more like Craigslist, where people go to sell to just local buyers, usually just a one-off item. Facebook Shops is much more for a business looking to sell their inventory of many, many items of the same type. So if you already use Facebook and you like their interface and you like this platform, then Facebook Shops can be a natural solution for you for your e-commerce. Also, if your business has a Facebook page and you have some following already, then it's a very easy to extend that following and list your items for sale. And then you can talk about it on your Facebook page and people can find out and buy your products. I think Facebook Shops has a nice, simple interface. It's powerful, it's modern. So if you're already on the platform, it's definitely one that I encourage you to look into. The next one here is Amazon. I think we all already know Amazon. It's the world's largest e-commerce platform. And I think for good reason. Amazon has really figured out a lot of key user interface and design elements to make shopping a very good experience on their website. And if you want to sell on Amazon, you get the benefit of obviously their huge user base. It's the world's largest e-commerce platform. So you've got just a massive amount of people coming here and searching for every type of good imaginable. However, it's not without its downsides. And I think one of the biggest downsides I've encountered is just the issue of counterfeit products. And one example is I've worked with a pasta maker in Central Virginia. They made kind of custom handmade pastas, dry pastas. They sold them on Amazon. They did very, very well. I mean, they were making $100,000 a month in revenue. But what happened is somebody copied their branding, copied their product essentially, and started selling under their name. And so there were two different companies with the same name and the same product. The original company, the genuine one, lost a lot of money to the fake. And of course, they asked Amazon to remove the fake company, but Amazon either couldn't or wouldn't do it. And this is a common issue where Amazon just won't step in to remove counterfeit goods. So it's a risk if you're selling on Amazon that if you have a unique and good selling product, that it's possible somebody who's unethical will come in, copy a lot of that, and take some of your revenue away. So it's something to be aware of. And to date, I still think Amazon does not have a good policy or history of helping resolve these disputes. So you're essentially stuck. You're essentially out of luck. With that pasta company I worked with, their solution was painfully transitioning to sales on their own website and moving off of Amazon. But, in the months that took, they did lose a ton of money. So it's a risk that if you get big, this can happen to you, especially on Amazon. The last category here is Amazon Handmade, which is Amazon's answer to Etsy. And you can see that they're focused on a lot of those same categories as Etsy, things like gifts and jewelry, home and kitchen products, clothing, wedding supplies. It looks very similar to Etsy. And so if you would like to sell these types of products on Amazon, they have this more exclusive brand, Amazon Handmade, that you can apply. And if they accept you, you can list your products here. Typically, products on Amazon Handmade sell at a pretty premium price point. So if that's where you'd like to sell and position your products, then Amazon Handmade is one of the best choices out there. So now that we've talked about the different e-commerce platforms, I want to talk about how you set up your e-commerce store. And these strategies and tips will be applicable to any store you pick. So it's good to know these basic rules and to help you maximize your success with your store. So the first thing you're going to do in setting up your e-commerce store is find your product or products to sell. Secondly, I'm going to show you how to customize your starting e-commerce template. And lastly, we're going to talk about how you add your products to your e-commerce page. So when you're looking to find a product or products to sell, there's some general guidelines that are useful to know. The first thing you should ask yourself is how many products you're going to sell. This can range anywhere between 1 and say 1,000. And I've worked with businesses who have both, anywhere in that entire range. I recommend not trying to start a new e-commerce business with like 1,000 products. That takes a massive amount of time to organize images, text, prices, not to mention inventory. So I would recommend you focus on the top 10 or 20 best-selling products that you have and start listing those for sale online first. And when you're thinking of what type of product you should list for sale, ask yourself these questions. Does it solve a customer pain point? Meaning, if it's solving a really painful or big problem for your target market, more likely it's going to sell better. Secondly, does it appeal to a hobbyist, crowd, or arts and crafts? And if it does, then it's logical to sell that on Etsy or Amazon Handmade. Does the product go with your personal passion and build on your own experience? Because you need every advantage you can get. It's very competitive selling online. So if you have history in certain industries or with certain products that gives you an advantage, you should use your knowledge, use your insight in and sell products in those categories. Can you capitalize on trends early? Can you notice that there's going to be a shortage or some unique holiday trend or selling trend and get those types of things in stock? And one way to find trends is you can read customer reviews on existing products on almost any of these e-commerce platforms and learn what the customers are saying they like and also what they don't like about the products. Sometimes reading what people don't like about products can give you good ideas of ways you can create products then to outcompete those existing products. And you should litmus test before you launch, which means you don't want to launch 100 products in the exact same category because you're not entirely sure how to sell in that category or to that target market yet if you're just starting out. So if you have multiple categories of products, start with just one product per category. Test it out, see which category seems to be working the best, And once you have some data on your success rate, you should focus on that category and really expand your sales there. You should always be browsing what's trending on online marketplaces to get some tips and early mover advantages. You can do this by looking at Amazon, as they have their top selling item clearly marked in every category. And there's other websites where you can go to do research on e-commerce platforms and what's trending there. One that's very popular and it's been around quite a while is called Camel Camel Camel. So that's like the animal repeated 3 times, and camelcamelcamel.com. This is a third-party site that scans a lot of data from Amazon and others and shows you all sorts of interesting trends and data to help you make informed decisions of what types of products and at what price points are appealing for an e-commerce store to be selling at. Always try to research and post products with higher profit margins. One thing about selling online with e-commerce, if you haven't done it before, is that it really does make most products into a commodity, because it's very hard to differentiate the quality between product A, B, and C, but just looking at pictures or reading the description. I'm going to tell you how you can do your best to show your quality with your images and descriptions, but in general, you have to sell at a lower price point online because there's so much competition. So price is a big determining factor when online sales shoppers are considering what purchase to buy, even more so than in a physical store. And lastly, always be on the lookout for new opportunities, either things you hear about, read about, never be idle, because your competitors online certainly are not being idle. And the highest sales and the highest profit are going to go to the businesses that are the most active and the most innovative in this space. The next thing you'll need to do after finding which products you're going to sell is to customize your e-commerce template. So any of the e-commerce platforms I mentioned are going to have a similar approach, where you will start with a starting template or page, which looks fairly empty, and you don't really have many choices of how to customize it, but you can customize some elements of it. You should ask yourself some questions to find out which template is right for you, if they give you a choice of several, which they usually do. So you should ask, what features do you want your store to have? If you have a big video you want to display prominently at the top, make sure you find a template that's got a placeholder for a video. If you want your homepage to be broken into categories or have images or more text, you should find a template that has the right balance of image and text and the right layout that you like. And think about how you want customers to move around your store. And this is also applicable on your own website, on your business.com website. Do you want all your products to be on your homepage? Do you want them on sub pages? So think about the navigation. And figuring these things out early is going to save you time as you pick a template and then build your store. And when it comes to changing the page and actually modifying it, it's easy to change a lot of elements on the page, including the text size and the font that's used, the colors of the text, the images. Of course, you can replace default placeholder images with your own. You can change the positioning of products, change the features, and usually embed social media links or possibly even social media feeds. So these can be really helpful if you have an active Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn pages, then you can incorporate those onto your sales page. This is always good because customers won't always buy a product the first time they see it online. They might want to do additional research on your company, and one way they'll do that is by looking at your Facebook page. And they'll look and see how active you've been, how many followers you have, do you look like a reputable company? And so it's good that if you are active on these platforms, that you embed these links so people can easily find them, and it helps them more quickly make that decision than to buy your products. The next step is to add your products. And the main thing you're going to need to add your products, no matter which e-commerce platform you choose, are the name, the price, category, the weight, and the digital file if it's anything downloadable, images, videos, ebooks, etc. And there's 3 key things that are going to make uploading your products really successful, which are going to be the product descriptions, the images, and the category. And this is what I'm going to talk about next, because it's really important that you can use these 3 tactics to differentiate your products from others in a very competitive online marketplace. Your product descriptions need to be convincing, but there are some things that you should be avoiding, which is complex jargon and abbreviations. Sometimes if you're in a certain industry, you might assume that an abbreviation is just so widely known you can use it, but you shouldn't ever assume that online. Your target buyer might not know a certain abbreviation, so you should always spell those out. Avoid using cliches and long sentences. Those don't really help you sell your products. Now, one area where you can really differentiate your products is in the images that you use. I think taking good product images is one of the easiest ways that you can outcompete a lot of the competitors out there. The image here on the left is what's called a photography light box. It's just a simple setup where you place your products in the side of this box, which has even lighting distribution and a neutral white background. You then place a camera on a tripod in front and take your pictures from a consistent angle with consistent lighting. This really helps you get good product images, which will help increase the perceptional quality of your products online, which is very important if you're trying to sell them at a decent margin. So in addition to using a photography light box, which you can buy for $40 or $50 online, here's some other tips. Use high quality images. So, sometimes I still see small businesses using pictures of photos of products that are pixelated because they're just small in resolution and they end up looking blurry, and that's not a good image for your brand or for your products. So in general, you want to aim for a size of dimensions of 1000 by 1000 pixels. I think that's about a minimum that I'd recommend nowadays. A lot of people are viewing e-commerce stores on their phones, and they pinch to zoom in on images. So if you're not at least 1000 by 1000 pixels, probably people are going to notice some pixelation, and you can just easily avoid it. And it'll make your products look more premium and help you sell your products more online. You can also take your own photos with most modern smartphones. I think any smartphone within the last 2 or 3 years will do a pretty decent job. The main thing is getting your lighting even, making sure there's no dark shadows, making sure that the background's nice and neutral in most cases, unless you're going for a look where it's in a setting like in a restaurant and there's supposed to be a table with food behind it. Like, most products look best on a neutral white background. And you can take these with your own phone, but if you want to, you can always buy a more expensive DSLR camera that will take slightly higher quality photos, but for most e-commerce stores, it's not really going to be an issue. The next recommendation is to use a 360-degree view option. Many of the e-commerce sites let you take photos of a product from multiple angles, and then they will stitch them together to make kind of a rotating 360 view. This is really helpful if you have some product that you want to show the details on the back side, and the viewer can, the buyer can zoom around and look at it from all angles. Also, make sure to add all product variation images. So if your product comes in multiple sizes, shapes, or textures, make sure you have an image showing every variation as much as possible, so shoppers really know what product they're going to be getting. Often, if they're interested in buying a certain configuration where there's not an image of, they're just going to pass and they're not going to buy it because they're not really sure what that's going to look like. So you don't want to lose customers because of that. And also add a zoom option. So a lot of the websites, if you want to let a user zoom in, let's say you've got some really fine stitching or pottery work and you want to show off the fine details, you can take a photo with a resolution of 2000 or 2000 by 2000 pixels, or maybe even 3000 by 3000 pixels. And that will allow people to zoom in more on the fine details. And the last note here is that you can optimize your images with using a free online tool. So an image you take right out of your smartphone is going to be very large in size, and so large that it will make your e-commerce site and page load very slowly if you upload just that raw image taken from your phone camera. Those images might be 5 megabytes or 10 megabytes. The ideal size for an image used on e-commerce is going to be around 100K or to 200K. So that stands for kilobytes. Significantly smaller than 5 to 10 megabytes. And so you can change the size, you can resize that yourself if you just search for free online image compression tool. Always make sure that you will compress your images down from the original size before posting them on your website or the e-commerce page to make sure it's going to load quickly. This not only gives your users a better experience because the page is snappy and they're not waiting as images load, but it helps improve the search engine optimization and your score in search engines if you have your own website, because they look at the page load times very, very closely. And if you have a lot of big images, it's going to make your page load slowly. Search engines like Google and Facebook will know that, and they will not give you a very good rank in the search results, which means you just won't show up much and get those free website visitors that businesses all rely upon. Now, here's some examples of good product images using a variety of techniques and styles. And you can mix and match some of these styles with your own product images if you're inspired to do so. The first one is a dimension image, which shows the relative scale of your product. So in this case, it's a cat holder for an Alexa. And so just giving some size of the scale of this, the cat's 9 inches long, it helps people get a sense of the size of the product. So do they want to buy it or not? The next one is a comparison chart, which is really handy if you want to compare the key selling points and differentiators of your product versus your closest competitors. You have a graphic designer or perhaps make this yourself and just highlight those key differences in a comparison chart like this. The next one is a 3D image or infograph. If you have a product that is the secret sauce of the product or the selling point is something hidden inside that you can't easily see, then creating a 3D image that shows the inside of the product, like in this case with this water thing, then people can see what's going on inside. So this can be a good investment to create this kind of inside view of your product. And an infograph here shows 6 key selling points, just nice visually. People can see those really quickly. And an image says 1,000 words. Images can be very, very influential in people's buying decisions of your products. So don't neglect investing the time and maybe the money in developing the images for your products sufficiently. 3 types of images that are really popular in product listings as well as social media. If you're creating products and talking about them on your social media pages, you can have images like the creation process, showing how the product is made, just a zoomed in, a detailed look. The next one is a scale shot. So in this case is jewelry, but showing the scale on like a model's hands can help people understand how it will look on them. And lastly, a group shot of multiple products of similar type. You can take fewer pictures if you're pushed for time, and you can actually just put more products in a picture, which is effectively showing multiple products off at the same time. Third, you want to launch your store and maximize your profits. So there's 3 tactics here that'll help you make you successful. The first one is setting up your payment methods. Secondly, I'm going to show you how to preview, test, and then publish your online store. And lastly, how you're going to analyze your results and what you should do in a follow-up 4 to 6 weeks later after you've launched your store. So firstly is, how do you set up your payment methods? This is the process in which you actually accept the credit card payment funds and deposit those into your business bank account. There's multiple ways to do this. And depending on your specific situation and setup, one way might be more cost savings than another. In general, the fee of taking credit card payments ranges from 1% plus 10 cents per transaction up to 3% plus 30 cents per transaction. And this all varies between, it depends on the destination bank, the original bank, various middlemen and factors in between. There's 3 popular ways to accept credit card payments on a website. The first one is a merchant account and a payment gateway. In this scenario, you partner with a bank, a big bank. You will usually provide this like Chase or Wells Fargo. They accept a credit card payment for you and channel the money into your business bank account. The next way is a payment gateway package. This is a piece of software which connects your store shopping cart to the various credit card processing networks. An example of what this is would be WooCommerce, which is a popular plugin for WordPress websites that converts your website into an e-commerce site. So that would be an example of a payment gateway package. And the third option is simplified credit card payment processing. This is a service that integrates with your store's checkout. And a good example of this is Shopify. So Shopify built their own payment gateway because they're so big. Shopify makes it so your shoppers don't have to leave your store or your site to complete the purchase. And because Shopify has their own payment processing network, it's called Shopify Payments. If you use that when you're running on Shopify, they do waive the credit card transaction fees. But I mean, don't get too excited because I'm sure they add in those fees in other ways, like in the monthly fees. So they're still making the money, but they do have 0% credit card processing fees. So depending on your unique setup with your business, any one of these could be your best option as far as cost savings go, but it's just a good thing to know what your options are. The next step is to preview, test, and publish your online store. So before launching, you want to test your store to make sure everything works properly before a customer finds something that is broken. So when previewing and testing, here's a few key things to look out for. The first one is, does your checkout process work? And the best way to test this is to purchase an item or have someone do it, and then make sure that the email notifications you might have set up are working properly. Make sure the customer gets their emails like they're supposed to, that everything's worded properly. You can immediately refund the customer. Now, because so many people were testing and refunding and not having to pay anything, the credit card processing networks have recently kind of put a penalty on a refund. So even if you refund immediately, you're normally going to pay $1 or $2 in a fee, a refund fee. So that's kind of annoying, but it's still worth it to test out your ordering process, even if you do end up paying a fee of $1 or $2. Secondly, test if your store's buttons work. So all the links and all the clickable buttons. Make sure that you test everything out, because you might have a link that's missing or goes to the wrong place, and you want to find that before your customers do. Lastly, go through your content. Of course, you're looking for spelling and grammar accuracy. Make sure your pictures have a consistent look and quality. Maybe you forgot to shrink one, optimize it in size, and so you notice it loads very, very slowly. It's an easy thing to miss. You know, when you're dealing with dozens or hundreds of images, you forgot one. You will notice that when it loads very slowly on the page, and you can go and fix that. And make sure that you check these, because the search engines will also be looking at these factors and determining your SEO score. So if you have a poor speed on your website or spelling and grammar errors, you will have not a very good SEO, which will ultimately just hurt your online sales potential. So make sure you check that yourself. And the last thing I recommend you doing is having a follow-up conversation with an online e-commerce expert who can help you decide and discover, where you did well and what you might be able to do better going forward with your store. Some things to consider talking about are, did you meet your sales and revenue goals for the first month? And what feedback did you receive from your customers online? What products did you sell the most of? And also, what were you surprised maybe that didn't sell? If you have any new ideas or products, it's good to discuss those with somebody else with knowledge in the area. And also, what have you learned from your competitors? You should always be reading reviews on their products and learning as much as you can about their successes and failures. And this will all help educate you on what you should do going forward to really optimize your store and make sure that it's going to be the revenue generator that you want it to be. That concludes the formal part of the presentation, and I hope this was useful in deciding on which e-commerce platform might be best for you and learning about your website options. I'm happy now to answer your questions. You can type those into the Q&A box, and we'll start going through those, and hopefully we can answer all of them for you today.
We do have a few in there right now. So the first one is, okay, so there's an attendee here who is just wanting to know how current your Shopify info is. They have said that they believe that you can customize everything in Shopify.
Last time I worked on a Shopify e-commerce page was 3 or 4 months ago, and it's possible they've changed a few things. Yes.
Okay. With the same name situation of the pasta example you gave selling on Amazon,
Mhm.
did the original company have a trademark, and would that have protected the original pasta company when selling on Amazon? Do you know that?
That's a great question. I do believe that they were trademarked and copyrighted. They'd gone through the legal process. The problem is that Amazon doesn't really care. Like, they have so much volume of people selling on their site and so many counterfeiters that I think years ago they just gave up trying to be the judge in these cases, right? They would look at the copyright information from one person, and maybe the counterfeiter would have their own copyright information, and Amazon just decided they didn't want to be deciding all these cases, so they just kind of ignore the problem. And so even businesses that have done their legal due diligence, it often doesn't avail them at all when trying to get Amazon to take action against a counterfeiter. And there's a lot of information and news stories about this topic online as well. There's tons of posts and forums about business owners who've had this issue. So it's a pretty big problem with Amazon. It's probably the biggest drawback of using Amazon in my experience. It's not going to probably impact you until you start getting bigger in your sales. I mean, if you're selling $500 a month of your product, a counterfeiter won't care, but they have access to analytic tools like Camel, and they can see products that are getting very popular very quickly, and they become prime targets for counterfeiters.
How difficult is it to decouple from an e-commerce platform if you start with one and find it doesn't meet your needs?
It's a great question. It's generally not that hard, though there will be some steps you'll need to take. When you go to an e-commerce platform, you're going to spend time uploading your images, your text, setting your prices and your inventory levels. So that will take some hours. You'll have to redo that work, obviously. But another thing to consider is if you have a website that has links to your products on Amazon and you want to move to Shopify, you're going to also have to change those links to point to the new places. So it'll certainly take several hours of work at a minimum to move from one to another, but it's not impossible to do.
So I hear many of the e-commerce platforms have add-on services or or apps that drive much of the cost. Which are the best and worst in the add-on game?
Yeah, that's true. So one example would be if you want to sell a subscription package, like a monthly subscription or an annual subscription, rather than just to a product. Almost all the platforms like Shopify, Etsy, at least Shopify and Etsy will allow you to sell subscriptions, but they have an additional fee as like an add-on fee that's for subscriptions. So I wouldn't say one is the best or the worst in that game. I don't really know, because it depends on how many add-ons you're looking to add and stuff. For example, Amazon and Facebook shops, they don't allow for things like subscriptions at all. So Amazon, as far as I know, I wouldn't say they have any add-on fees. The only variable fees you're going to encounter with them are the fulfillment fees, which they take more of the load off of you, but they charge you for it, like doing the returns. So it all comes down to exactly what you're trying to achieve. But I would say overall, they're all fairly competitive as far as the cost and as far as the add-on fees.
So let's see, you mentioned a WordPress plugin for bundling a package for payment capabilities. Can you name that reference plug again?
Yeah, it's WooCommerce. It's WOO Commerce, all one word. And so if you do have a WordPress website, and if it's not capable of taking credit card payments, then WooCommerce is a plugin that you can just install on any WordPress website that will give you the capability to take the credit card payments. And their fee structure is that they charge a small fee. It's around 0.5 or 1% of all of your sales as their fee. But keep in mind, they also do the credit card processing part. So it's a very competitive credit card processing fee. So that's one. And I have used that one a lot, that plugin. And so it's the one that I would recommend if you're looking for a WordPress e-commerce solution.
Is there terms and conditions and privacy statement that you may suggest when doing e-commerce transactions?
That's a great question. I think it's always good to have your policies about returns, about disputes, how you want to handle those. You do need to think what you want your policy to be, of course. But I'm not a legal expert. So, yes, well, you should have those documents. I'm not really able to provide specific advice. There's a lot of good startup and small business attorneys that can help you draft your terms and conditions, and you should always use a professional for that. You can also always find some good starter templates and kind of outlines of what those generally look like. If you were to Google it, small business e-commerce terms and conditions. If you're trying to educate yourself on kind of the overall picture of what those encompass, then I would just start by reading some examples. But when it comes to writing the specifics, if you're serious about protecting yourself online, then you really do need to work with an attorney to help you do that.
Do you recommend setting up an LLC or another type of entity before setting up an online e-commerce presence?
It's a great question. Again, while I can't offer specific legal advice, that's not my area. Having an LLC is critical, I think. Let's say you sell a product online and you don't have an LLC, and that ends up harming somebody, or they die because of it, for example. You personally are liable for all of that. So that's a really bad situation to be in. However, if you have an LLC and it's sold under that, then only the assets or the money in the LLC's bank account can be sued for. So you're not personally liable. That's the main advantage of an LLC. In Virginia, it's $100 a year to register one. You can do it yourself online. It's very simple on the virginia.gov website. While I would encourage you also to at least, speak with an attorney to help do that, it is something anybody can do directly on their own. So I think if you're going to invest in a business, investing $100 for the LLC and that protection is a no-brainer. Yeah.
What platforms do you recommend for training videos and libraries of workshops? This attendee is looking to do online, holistic-based workshops that are subscription-based.
Yeah, so if I understand the question correctly, they're looking for video tutorials about how to set up a holistic subscription-based business, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Michelle,
So,
if you're still on
yeah.
here, if you want to confirm, I'm going to read it again. What platforms do you recommend for training videos and libraries of workshops? I'm looking to do a holistic-based workshops. So it looks like they're looking to do workshops that are subscription-based.
Right.
Michelle,
So,
she's creating the workshops.
yeah. So you're probably looking to set up a website to sell these workshops on, or perhaps you're looking for a third-party website to host the workshops on. They're both options. I think your best bet would be to do both, to both have your own website if you don't already, talk about your business, and obviously having a website that can host workshops and have credit card payments is quite an advanced level. That's between level 3 and 4. So they get expensive if you're going to build that from scratch. But there's a lot of good third-party sites that help you host subscription-based workshops. So you don't have to build all of those pages and all of those interfaces. I didn't talk about them here because subscriptions weren't the focus, but one that comes to mind is Kajabi, Kajabi. It's a very good platform for hosting subscription packages and video type courses. Coursera is another one that's a top contender there. There's many more as well. And so I would look into Kajabi and Coursera if you want to find a platform to help you. Basically, you post the videos, you put your price, and then they do all the selling and the e-commerce part for you. But in addition to that, I think having your own website, domainname.com, is going to help you have a better brand image and perception online and help give customers more confidence in your business. So it should help you increase your online sales.
What is the benefit of drop shipping?
So drop shipping just means you're sending a product directly from the factory that makes it to the customer's front door. It's not going to a warehouse. I mean, most products sit in a warehouse until they're sold. So drop shipping eliminates the warehouse. So it can be advantageous for a lot of reasons because it's usually cheaper. You're just shipping it once from point A to point B, not from point A to point B and then to point C, right? So there's fewer people, fewer shipping. So it can be cheaper. Yeah. The problem with that is it's hard to anticipate demand. So if you get 100 orders for a product, but that manufacturing place can only make 10 a day, it's going to take a long time to fulfill those orders. And that's the downside to drop shipping. So there's a lot of nuances with that, but I think that's just a quick answer to your question. But if you have any follow-up questions, let us know.
Um, how does TikTok shop compare to the ones that you've mentioned?
That's a great question. I haven't actually gotten hands-on experience with TikTok Shop. I know TikTok is the video platform, and I've interacted with it in a digital marketing capacity and putting marketing videos on the platform. But as far as its e-commerce shopping capabilities, I'm not an expert on that one. So it's something that I'll learn about.
Let's see. So this attendee has a drone photography and videography business and sells digital images. Sounds like Shopify is the right one. Will Shopify frame and put it on a canvas?
That's a great question. So Shopify itself is not an on-demand printer. That's the type of service you're describing. It's called on-demand printing. Um, they don't print, but I do believe they have affiliations with on-demand printers. And because that's a fairly common business model, there's a piece of digital art and somebody wants a physical print. So they order the digital art, they pick the print, and it goes to some printer, and that printer then essentially drop ships it to the customer. So while I don't know the exact partners that Shopify has for on-demand printing, in the last year, I have heard of one or two people doing that and setting that up. So I'm pretty sure it's a service they offer. But I think what you should do is Google Shopify on-demand printing, and you'll find businesses that partner with Shopify to automate the process. So as soon as the order comes in and they choose their size, that information in the digital file gets sent to the printer, who prints it in the next 24 hours and ships it right to the customer. So it can be a good business model to help save you, the artist, the time and the work of having to do any of that yourself.
Okay, let's see. So this one I think you touched on earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and read it, this question as well. The platforms you covered, Amazon, Etsy, etc., seem to be geared for products. For a service-based company like physical therapy, personal training, group fitness classes, do you have any recommendations for platforms to use for services as opposed to products?
Right. So yeah, physical therapy, for example. I mean, I had the example of a nail salon, but yeah, service-based business typically just needs a very simple website. If all you want to do is have information about your business and like your location and contact information, that doesn't even need to be an e-commerce website, right? So it's a very simple and cheap website to make. However, if you want people to book sessions on the website and schedule them, so you'll have a booking calendar where you have your available times, you'll set your packages for the different services you offer, then Shopify is a pretty good option for that. It's actually the only one I mentioned here that I know does that. Shopify has, again, it's an add-on. You pay a little bit more. It's the subscription. You sell your subscriptions, and then you just set up your times, the details of each package, the price, and people can book it on the website of Shopify, pay on Shopify, and it's booked directly on your calendar. So you can't book twice at the same time, right? Shopify handles that for you. There's others other than Shopify out there, but as far as the ones I covered today, that Shopify is the only one that I know that does that. Oh, you're muted still.
Sorry about that. Does Shopify or any of the others steal your product or copy it? Which ones are safest from fraud?
Well, the companies like Shopify, Amazon, Etsy, they're big international companies based in the US. So as far as the company stealing your product, they would be in pretty serious legal trouble if it was found out they did that. Though I can't say for sure that they've never done that. Who knows? I think that there have been rumors that Amazon, the company, has identified hot selling products and essentially ripped them off and sold them as the Amazon Basics brand. So that's not great. So how do you protect yourself? it's pretty hard. You know, if you rely on any of these big third-party sites, you're kind of at their mercy. But I think one thing that is for sure is that if you sell primarily on your own website, you are the most protected. Um, you're funneling the sales through your website. The challenge with that is, of course, getting enough people to your website that you have the volume of people looking to make enough sales that you need. Amazon has millions of people a day. Each one of these sites has a huge volume. So, and, there's pros and cons. Overall, I would say, unless you're wildly successful, nobody's going to try to counterfeit your product. But of course, you should be wildly successful. You should aim for that. But unfortunately, in some cases, yes, counterfeiters will can knock off your product. So it's a persistent problem with e-commerce. But again, it happens in the vast minority of cases. So probably it will never happen to anybody on this call.
When contracting someone to create a level 3 or level 4 website, it seems like you would need to regularly engage someone to maintain it. Has that been your experience?
So if you have no experience with website development at all, it's a bit of a challenge to maintain it yourself. However, I think it's a really good skill to learn as a business owner. Knowing how to at least update your website and update the text and the images yourself is a critical skill to have, because you don't want to be behooven to a website developer that you have to pay every month or every 3 months to do work. One is that they won't be as fast and responsive as you would be yourself. Two is they might make mistakes you wouldn't make. And three, it costs a lot of money. So yes, I would encourage you to hire a good team to develop a website. And it's something that I'm happy to give some recommendations on. If you're looking for a developer, you can email help@virginiasbdc.org, and I can give you some recommendations of Virginia-based developers I worked with. But as part of what you pay them for should be training you. And that's an important part. They need to train you on how to maintain the site. And I encourage you to take it really seriously and learn and ask a lot of questions. So in 6 months and 12 months and 3 years, you can maintain that site yourself. Now, at some point, every website gets outdated. So in 3 or 4, maybe 5 years, the website you make now, you'll probably make a whole new website. But at least in all the time you have a website, you should know how to maintain it yourself for the most part.
There is someone asking for the spelling. You mentioned, I think it was Kajabi that you mentioned earlier. If you can spell that, I'll type that into the chat for everyone.
Yep. Let me just look it up to make sure I'm spelling it correctly.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, it's Kajabi, Kajabi. Kajabi.com. Yeah, it's a nice platform.
Kajabi.com.
Yeah, it's nice if you're doing online courses, e-courses, video courses, and things like that.
Okay. Which sites would work best for offering online walking tours?
Online walking tours, that's an interesting one. I've actually never worked with a business doing that. But if you're essentially selling a package at a certain time at a certain price, I think that Shopify, with its ability to set a certain package and have a calendar event for that, that would be suitable for a walking tour.
Let's see. What are the regulations, licenses, etc., to sell merchandise like company logo, T-shirts, stickers, or magnets?
Right. Well, if you're looking to license a logo of a company or like a sports team or something, well, I mean, ultimately you need to talk to an attorney who's an expert at licensing, which I'm not, but it essentially involves some sort of agreement or contract between you and the entity who you want to use the logo of. But the specifics of how best to go about that, I'm not an expert. So I'd refer you to find an attorney who could advise you. And it's possible we might have a resource at the Virginia SBDC who specializes in that aspect of legal work, but you could always email us at the help email address, and we can hopefully find the right asset for you to talk to.
Let's see. Where is a good place to sell one-offs or one-of-a-kind items?
That's a great question. All of these sites are primarily made for not a one-off item, right? They're made if you have 100 of the same items to help you sell those. One-off items, eBay comes to mind. Depending on the type of item, Often eBay is the source people will go to. I also mentioned Facebook Marketplace, and that can be useful. You'll find things like vintage cars, classic old musical instruments, interesting, unique things. So either eBay or Facebook Marketplace would be two to look into.
So you touched on this earlier, but this attendee is just really looking for, from your experience, which site do you think is the safest one to use?
All right. Well, we talked about Shopify, Etsy, Amazon twice, and Facebook. I know Amazon has a bad reputation, so I would probably discount those two, Amazon and Amazon Handmade. I don't know, have enough data on the other three to give an informed decision on that. I would encourage you to maybe do a Google search, and you could ask it, Shopify versus Etsy versus Facebook. How safe is it to sell on these platforms? I think you'd want to do some more research and inform yourself a bit more. And unfortunately, I just don't have that information.
Okay, so this is a follow-up to that walking tour. Patricia is asking, is there something that would help create geolocation for a walking tour that you're aware of?
Yeah, there's a lot of options for that. I don't know how you want to implement it. If it's something like you could have an app on your phone that as you walk around, it creates a map of your route. That's one option. So I guess I'm not sure how you're thinking of using geolocation, but if you want to let us know if the app idea was the right guess, or if you have something else in mind, then I can work on that answer further.
Okay, so does anyone else have any more questions? That's it right now. Or Patricia, if you have a follow-up to what you have asked, you could drop that in now. I'm getting ready to launch our poll. If everyone could please take a moment to fill that out too, while we're waiting to see if a couple more questions pop in. We've had quite a few people hop off. I think everyone's headed out of town for Thanksgiving. All right, I don't see any more questions hopping in. Do you have anything you want to wrap up with, Cameron? And
I
then
don't think
close us
so.
out.
They were, yeah, great questions. Thanks for those. And I hope this was a useful introduction to the intricacies of an e-commerce business. Again, I think it's well within everybody's grasp here to set up an e-commerce business and make it successful, though there are these certain strategies that are best to employ when you're looking to do that. So feel free to reach out to the Virginia SBDC if you have other questions in this area. And I look forward to seeing you at our next online boot camp in December.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you all for attending today, and thank you, Cameron. You will receive an email with a link to the recording and the slides. I'm going to try to get them out before the holiday, but it might be Monday, so we'll see how fast YouTube gets the recording up for me. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. This webinar and other SBD resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. We hope to see everyone in our next session, and I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.